Is the Zeekr 7X the next genuine EV disruptor, or is the hype running well ahead of reality? Some say it's a giant slayer, others that it's just a pretender. Well, to find out, we're taking the flagship Zeekr 7X, the performance all-wheel drive, and testing it against the world's biggest selling EV, the Tesla Model Y. And not just any Model Y, this is the performance with enough punch to embarrass the mightiest of sports cars. So how are we going to go about this? Well, we're going to check the price and spec, we're going to get inside them. Very importantly, we're going to drive them, we're going to see how economical they are, how fast they recharge, and then we're going to recommend to you which one to buy. So hang in there, it's going to be a super fast, silent ride. If you've seen this video, you need to watch this one. We've heard your comments, we know you've got questions, now we're going to answer them. Medium SUV is where the action is when it comes to EVs. 5 doors, 5-seat wagons. The Tesla Model Y has been the dominant player since its launch, and this year's Juniper update has kicked that along. Zeekr is one of the plethora of recent Chinese arrivals in Australia. There are 3 Zeekr models in the launch range, and it's clearly targeted at the Model Y. When it comes to pricing, the Zeekr 7X definitely has the advantage. Bog stock, no options fitted, it's more than $16,000 cheaper than the Tesla Model Y Performance. Now, in this case, with our test car, the Model Y actually adds full self-driving supervised, which is Tesla's semi-automated driving assistance package. That adds a cool $10,000. Pretty big hit. Now, if you want to understand more about FSDS, check out the video, which is hopefully just popped up on the screen here that you can click on, by my colleague Dan Gardner, that delves right into how FSDS works. The Zeekr 7X has a distinct advantage when it comes to vehicle warranty, but the Tesla Model Y does slightly better in terms of battery coverage. While the Zeekr offers an orthodox service schedule and cap price servicing, Tesla offers neither. The Model Y is serviced as required. The Tesla Model Y Performance has the same fundamental look and dimensions as its brethren, but there are some key exterior differences designed to make it stand out, including the front bumper and the air blades attached to it, the black wing mirrors, and, at the rear, the carbon fibre lip spoiler, unique rear bumper, and black diffuser. Topping it all off are these 21-inch Arachnid alloy wheels and larger red calipers. The Zeekr 7X flagship is harder to pick from its cheaper rear-wheel drive relations. The big giveaway are these 21-inch alloy wheels, and if you see it bouncing up and down on the spot, that's because it's the only one with height-adjustable air springs. One 7X feature everyone universally despised during this test were the power doors that were anything but intuitive to open and close, and half the time they decided there was an obstacle in their path so they wouldn't open properly anyway. Ditch them, Zeekr, and give us normal doors and openers, thank you. Well, they both have performance in their names, and they both have performance in their natures, there's no doubt about that. Dual motor, all-wheel drive powertrains with an enormous amount of power and torque equals sub 4 second 0 to 100 km/h acceleration times in both cases. Now that is super fast in anyone's language. Okay, what about the other side of the equation? Consumption. Well, the Tesla Model Y, from a smaller battery, claims to be more frugal and have a longer range. Look, it's 400 kilos lighter than the 7X, so that's probably got something to do with it, but that is a claim figure. We're going to hit the road and test out whether that stacks up or not. Settle into the cabin of the Tesla Model Y and you are met with the very definition of Spartan minimalism. There is just not a lot going on here. There are a couple of features that separate the performance though. One is these heavily bolstered sports seats, another is this carbon fibre trim, and you also get some aluminium pedals. Now this is the only Tesla Model Y that comes to Australia from Tesla's Gigafactory in Berlin, Germany. The mainstream Model Ys come from Shanghai, China. So what does that mean for fit, finish and quality? To be frank, early Model 3s that came to Australia from Tesla's California plant were a bit of a horror show, but this car looks to be as well bolted together as anything from Shanghai. The Model Y offers plenty of storage. Features include deep bins in the centre console and in the doors. One less likeable feature though is the panoramic glass sunroof, and that's because it has no sliding inner cover. Driving on a warm, cloudless day, it really heated up in the cabin, to the point I was starting to feel sunburned. Now this is where the Model Y gets really idiosyncratic. This is Tesla. If you want to control anything, you basically do it through this big 16-inch central infotainment screen. You want to change the gears, that's drive, that's reverse. Park's in the middle. When you get rolling, the speedo is displayed up here. You want to adjust the steering wheel, you want to adjust your mirrors, you want to adjust the regen settings. It's all done through the screen. Very few things are not adjusted this way. Happily, seats can be adjusted down here at the power settings at the front seats. So, what else can you do in this screen? Well, it makes great fart noises, which is kind of fun, I guess. The Tesla goes its own way on infotainment by not offering Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. Look, I found it nowhere near as easy to interact with as the smartphone-based systems, spending too much time dabbing at the screen to access the stuff I wanted. However, Teslarati assure me it's a very good system once you figure it all out. The dash cam and 360-degree cameras in this car are absolutely spectacular. It's handy, very handy, because the view out ain't that great. In fact, to the rear, it's like a mailbox. And it does record, so the beauty of that is you see something weird in the traffic, you can always save it and watch it back later. The Zeekr 7X is cheaper to buy than the Tesla Model Y, but from the moment you settle inside, it certainly feels more expensive. Settle into the soft Napa leather seat and cast your eyes around the interior, and there's a feeling here of, well, premium. It all seems well bolted together in that typical Chinese way, without obvious panel gap discrepancies or rattles. Up front, storage is good with deep bins in the centre console and the doors, and cup holders hidden under well-damped lids. The 7X is more conventional in its controls and therefore easier to interact with than the Model Y, at least when you first start trying to understand it. You've got the big central touchscreen, of course, like the Model Y, but there's also a digital instrument cluster and a head-up display. So plenty of information still in front of the driver. You don't have to look over here to see what the speed is. Now, there are also some physical keys retained across here, across the bottom of the touchscreen, for a few basic functions, including volume. And more good news, this car has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto connection, which makes life easier than the Model Y, at least in terms of that initial acclimatisation. So there's no doubt when it comes to presentation and features, the Zeekr gets the job done over the Spartan Model Y. There's even speakers for its audio system in the driver's headrest, which is pretty funky. On safety equipment, these two are very close when it comes to standard equipment, although as already mentioned, our Model Y comes with optional FSDS. Both come with 7 airbags. The Model Y range gets a 5-star ANCAP rating. The 7X also gets a 5-star rating, but from Euro NCAP, which is closely aligned to ANCAP. A long wheelbase and a flat floor means there's plenty of space for taller passengers in the rear seat of the Tesla Model Y Performance, but it also has a couple of party tricks. One is it's got a reclining power seat back, but also this screen between the front seats that allows rear seat passengers to direct airflow from the air conditioning, but also watch shows and play games. One thing missing though, map pockets at the back of the front seats. The usual features are here too: USB-C outlets, large door bins, a fold-down armrest with dual cup holders. The seat back even reclines 10 degrees. The Zeekr 7X has the same amount of impressive rear seat space as the Tesla Model Y. Absolutely no shortage of room here for taller people. Also has the same reclining seat back as the Tesla Model Y. And what it does miss though is the screen between the seats here, bit for the kids on those long journeys. There is something else here which is appreciated. This is its party trick. Ta-da! There are map pockets, door bins, air vents in the B-pillars, and yes, there are USB outlets hidden under this flap in the armrest. There are cup holders in here too. Now these are what I call a couple of big boots, truly befitting family SUVs. Outright, the Tesla has a slight advantage in terms of sheer space, and both cars have underfloor storage as well, although I'd rather there was a spare tyre under there, to be honest. There are frunks up the front too, and again the Tesla has a size advantage and a plug to drain out the ice after the beers are done with. The Tesla also has slow motion remote folding rear seats. The Zeekr can raise or lower its rear end thanks to those air springs. There are also lights and a 12-volt outlet in the 7X, neither of which the Tesla gets. To this point, got to say, the Zeekr 7X is winning us over with its value, equipment and welcoming presentation. But now we're getting to the driving. And surely this is where the Tesla Model Y really fights back. Okay, first thing first, changing gear by the screen is a bit weird, but because these cars basically drive on a single speed reduction gear like an automatic or even a CVT, you really don't need to worry about gear selection once you've picked D or R. So while it's weird and a bit annoying in a tight situation like a car park or something, once you get out on the open road, it recedes a bit into the background as an annoyance. The thing I struggle with a bit more actually in terms of trying to integrate with this car and feel connected to it is the seating position. I find it's a bit high for me. I cannot get the car low enough. It's partly exacerbated because the dashboard is so low, but I'd rather sit in the car than on it. It just means it's not quite as connected as I like. Of course, in a car this fast, the more integrated you feel, the better. And this car is incredibly fast in a straight line. It's got what's called insane mode, and that taps into all the power and torque, and then you've got a traction control as well that's very, very easy to fire up. It's just insane mode, brake on, away we go. Whoa, I mean, I'm holding my guts in here, substantial guts. Now that has got to a ridiculous speed I'm not even going to admit to on camera in a very, very short amount of time. It's so accessible, and I think that's the thing about it. Even if you don't feel like tapping into all 7 million kilowatts or whatever it's got, even just accessing a fraction of it gives you the sort of power and acceleration that is great for any passing situation, any hill, dashing across any intersection, inserting yourself into any busy roundabout. It's instant, it's on, it's always there. And it's so quiet. Tyres are more obvious than the e-motors. And for someone who's come out of a background where performance meant big, barking, woofling, growling, backfiring V8s, slurping on petrol, it's quite surreal how fast and quiet this thing is. To go with the massive powertrain performance, the Model Y Performance has a pretty advanced chassis, but it also feels a bit digital, especially the steering. The steering is not that well connected, doesn't offer a lot of feel. Sure, it's quick, it's darty, it's go-kart-ish, I guess would be the way you might term it, but it just doesn't have that reassuring confidence and intimacy that something like, a 911 might deliver. And I'm sorry to use the 911, it's the obvious journos example we always pull out, but it's true. This car would be improved by more feelsome steering. The tune of the adaptive suspension is actually very, very good. In comfort mode, you could live with it every day. And the sports mode, the Torta mode, you could live with every day as well if you're prepared to put up with a bit of bump thump. Probably the weakest point of the car's dynamic package is the braking. There's a real noticeable transition in hard braking from regen to friction brakes, and it gives you a little bit of concern. That initial press, driving at a corner at speed, that initial press, there's not a lot going on there, and then you kind of have a press and a gulf and it starts working for you. It lacks progression. It's a bit concerning. To be honest, after sampling the insane acceleration a couple of times, really the desire to drive the Model Y Performance really hard like a sports car sort of washes away. And that's because the cohesion of the car isn't quite there for me in terms of the communication and really enjoying it through a set of winding roads. Take it back a notch and it is really a very nice car to drive confidently and competently at decent speeds cross country. Of course, then you come into the question of, if I'm not buying this thing to, really work its performance, why don't I just buy a Tesla Model Y? Cheaper Tesla Model Y? That's a very good question. And what of FSDS? Well, both myself and Trent Junko, the journalist who's on this comparison with me writing the written review, have sampled it over the time we've had these cars, and we're both left feeling the same way. FSDS is mighty impressive technology that does a lot of things right. The trouble is, every now and again it does something we're not expecting, and that kind of makes it a little bit of a tense experience. Spend time wondering, is this is the time where it doesn't quite do the right thing, and it happens rarely enough that it's a little bit unpredictable. So $10,000, yeah, I don't know if I'd go there. Already talked about how much more welcoming the Zeekr 7X feels inside compared to the Model Y. And it sort of continues that theme when you get rolling. Softer seat, better seating position, lower, higher dashboard accentuates that. Okay, the seat doesn't have as much bolster for real sports driving, but then what quickly becomes apparent is this is not as much of a sports drive as the Model Y. The Model Y has a higher ultimate performance limit. It's a more focused car. The ride, the handling, the steering of this vehicle is more progressive and comfortable. It kind of tops out where the Model Y is beginning. There's a crossover point at its most focused where the Model Y is at its most relaxed. That's the easiest way to put it. And that makes this an easier car overall to drive. The Model Y feels very fast, but also a little bit far away from you. It has a limit that it's hard to reach and understand where it is, and therefore it could be easier to step over it. Whereas this car, everything's very progressive. It's got a lot of weight going on, so you've got a bit of roll, you've got a bit of movement, you've got a bit of push from the front end if you go a little bit too quick into a tight corner. It's kind of telling you where it's at. The steering is more progressive, it's not as quick, so you put more lock on in a corner, and it's quite progressive in the way you do that. You're not darting into the corner. The ride quality on air springs is blousy at the most comfort oriented setting, getting up to reasonably tight in the sportiest setting. But there's still, as I said, body roll and movement. The car feels like a more mainstream vehicle than the Model Y. They both got incredible straight line performance that they share, but this car is the one I'd choose to drive to and from the racetrack in comfort and enjoy it, whereas the Model Y is the one when you get on the racetrack you go for the time in, so much more focused. One area where the 7X isn't quite so impressive is tyre noise on coarse chipped surfaces. This car rolls on Conti's Continentals, which noticed in the past have a bit of an aversion to Australian coarse chip roads, and they do generate a bit of noise on the rawer surfaces, more so than the Pirelli P0s on the Model Y. The controls in the 7X are not as screen-centric as the Model Y. There's less distraction here. You're not constantly looking at the screen trying to figure out what to do next, how to enact things. It's not optimal. There's not enough buttons, there's not enough ease of access, but it's better than the Model Y. The Model Y, to be honest, stresses me out because I'm trying to figure out how to access things when I should be thinking about what's going on the road. Familiarity would help there, of course, but yeah, just as an initial experience, this car is really welcoming by comparison. Not one person involved in this comparison test has had one good thing to say about the doors, the power doors. Can we please just go back to mechanical doors? Just a door that you open and close. That'd be great. Thank you. So let's talk about economy and charging. The Model Y lives up to its claim by being more frugal. In back-to-back driving, it consistently averaged around 3 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometres better than the 7X. Pressed hard, both were at 20 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometres and above, but when cruising, they were both in the teens. That's pretty impressive. And charging? Well, here, the 7X with its 800 volt architecture fights back spectacularly. It is a super fast charging vehicle. Plugged in alongside the Model Y at a 350 kilowatt DC fast charging station, it ran as high as 296 kilowatts with the battery starting at 40% full. The Model Y started at 27% and never topped 150 kilowatts. That's an amazing performance by the 7X, especially when you consider how good Tesla powertrains traditionally are at this stuff. So put me on the spot for which of these I'd grab the key card to just for the driving experience. I think it would depend on the mood I'm in. The Model Y would be a challenge to unpick, the 7X easier and more malleable without the razor sharp peak. Most of the time I'm feeling more relaxed, so most of the time it would be the Zika. In fact, expand the picture and the 7X stands up. Sure, there's some weirdness here like the power doors, but there's also terrific dollar value. Lots of equipment, a spacious interior and a pleasing drive. The Model Y, it's more expensive, has less gear, is more focused, harder to interact with and less inviting to access its higher levels of performance. All of which means the Zeekr 7X Performance all-wheel drive wins this comparison test quite comfortably. In fact, that's the key word here. The 7X is welcoming and encouraging. The Tesla Model Y Performance, more demanding, less welcoming. In fact, for all its impressive performance, the Model Y is difficult to warm to. At the start of all this, we asked the question, is the new 7X a pretender or a contender? Well, not only have we found our winner, I think we've found our answer. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos, and let us know what you think of this video down below in the comments.